Hey friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon like thumbs up, share up right arrow, and subscribe red heart.
Last night's adventure of Jimmy Kimmel's show started like any added with the host accustomed his abode to the usual mix of acclaim and forced laughter. The admirers had no abstraction they were about to attest one of the most explosive confrontations in backward night television history. Micheal B. Jordan, there to advance his latest directorial project, absolved to assimilate the set with his characteristic confidence, a flame that million-dollar smile as he coiled to the crowd. But above the scenes, tensions had already been alive for hours. Sources abutting to the assembly revealed that Jordan's aggregation had specifically requested assertive capacity be off-limits during the interview. The actor, known for his professionalism and measured approach to media appearances, had made it bright through his representatives that he wouldn't altercate his recent breakup or abode rumors about his personal relationships. It was a reasonable appeal from a star who had consistently maintained clear boundaries amid his accessible and private life. But Jimmy Kimmel had other plans. As Jordan acclimatized into the guest chair, adjusting his altogether tailored suit jacket, article acquainted different about the host's demeanor. The usual badinage that about puts guests at affluence was acutely absent. Instead, Kimmel's eyes captivated a calculating gleam, the affectionate that appropriate he was already planning his abutting move in what would anon become a exact chess match. "So, Micheal," Kimmel began, his voice carrying that accustomed accent that regular viewers apperceive can about-face from affable to cutting in an instant. "Thanks for being here tonight. I accept to say, you look great for a addition who's been through such a arduous few months." The comment afraid in the air like a loaded gun. Jordan's smile flickered for a moment, but he maintained his composure with the accomplishment of addition who'd navigated endless interviews. "Thanks for accepting me, Jimmy. I'm aflame to talk about the film." "Oh, we'll get to that," Kimmel replied, aptitude aback in his armchair with the accidental aplomb of someone who captivated all the cards. "But first, I anticipate our admirers would love to apperceive how you're absolutely doing. I mean, personally, it's got to be boxy being in the spotlight aback your clandestine life becomes such accessible entertainment." The camera bent Jordan's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. This was exactly what his aggregation had asked to avoid. Yet, here was Kimmel, about 3 account into the interview, already blamed those boundaries with surgical precision. "I'm doing great, actually," Jordan responded, his articulation steady, but with an edge that hadn't been there moments before. "I'm focused on my work, which is why I'm actuality tonight. This new project represents aggregate I'm passionate about as both an amateur and a director." But Kimmel wasn't finished. He had caught the aroma of discomfort, and like a predator analysis weakness, he pressed forward. "That's absorbing that you mentioned affection because I've been following some of the belief about your recent adventures in the dating world. Must be nice to accept so abounding options when you're Micheal B. Jordan, right?" The flat admirers shifted uncomfortably. Even they could faculty that article was off about the host's bandage of questioning. This wasn't the playful ribbing that Kimmel was accepted for. This felt personal, about vindictive. Jordan's publicist, sitting in the green room, was already extensive for her phone, but she knew there was nothing she could do now. The account was live and her applicant was on his own. "Jimmy," Jordan said, his articulation demography on a warning accent that anyone who knew him would admit as a assurance to a back off. "I anticipation we were actuality to allocution about my film. That's what your producers and I agreed on." "Oh, appear on, Micheal." Kimmel attack aback his affected smile, growing wider. "You can't apprehend to appear on a talk appearance and not talk, right? Besides, inquiring minds' appetite to know. You've built this angel as Hollywood's golden boy, but some of these contempo stories suggest their ability be added to the story." The host was now absolutely committed to his attack, acutely absent to or perhaps advisedly blank the fact that his bedfellow was rapidly losing patience. In the ascendancy room, producers were aimlessly gesturing, aggravating to signal Kimmel to change direction, but he was in a bounding predator approach now. Jordan leaned advanced slightly, his famous charm absolutely evaporated. "What exactly are you aggravating to say, Jimmy?" And that's aback admirers at home and the studio admirers akin accomplished they weren't watching a archetypal celebrity interview anymore. They were witnessing the alpha of article abundant more dangerous. A activity that would expose the animal base of entertainment journalism and leave both men's reputations blind in the balance. The restriction in the flat was now apparent, with camera operators adjusting their shots to abduction every micro-expression, analysis that they were documenting article that would be replayed and analyzed for years to come. What started as a simple promotional appearance was rapidly transforming into an activity of wills that neither man seemed able to lose. But this was only the beginning, and what happened next would shock anybody watching. Kimmel's beam widened as he sensed he had Jordan absolutely area he wanted him, off balance and defensive. The host had fabricated a career out of these moments, pushing celebrities aloof, far abundant to create viral agreeable while maintaining plausible deniability, but tonight he had severely miscalculated his opponent. What I'm trying to say, Kimmel continued, his voice decrepit with apocryphal innocence, is that maybe it's time we had an honest conversation about the absolute Michael B. Jordan. Not the anxiously crafted image your PR aggregation sells, but the guy behind all those anxiously staged photo ops and strategic relationships. The words hit like a bang beyond the face. Jordan's hands, which had been accidentally resting on the armrests of his chair, slowly clenched into fists. The camera zoomed in on his face, capturing the exact moment aback his allegorical composure began to crack. Anxiously staged, Jordan repeated, his articulation alarmingly low. Strategic relationships. Jimmy, I don't know what affectionate of appearance you anticipate you're running here, but this isn't journalism. This is abridged debris bearded as entertainment. The flat admirers fell silent. Alike the best accidental viewers could faculty that article had fundamentally shifted. This wasn't banter anymore. This was war. Kimmel, either absent to the crisis or deliberately afflictive it further, leaned advanced with predatory enthusiasm. Oh, appear on, Michael. Everyone in Hollywood knows how the game works. Admirable people, beautiful publicity, admirable careers congenital on beautiful lies. I'm aloof adage what everyone abroad is thinking. What everyone else is thinking. Jordan's articulation rose slightly. The aboriginal Abel in his professional facade. Or what your cerebration, because it sounds to me like you've got some kind of claimed affair you're aggravating to work out on civic television. The host's expression flickered for aloof a moment. A beam of article animal and vindictive that the cameras bent afore he could hide it abaft his cast grin. Personal issue. Michael, I'm aloof doing my job. Maybe if you weren't so sensitive about a few harmless questions, we could absolutely accept a real conversation. Harmless questions? Jordan stood up abruptly, his armchair rolling backward with the force of his movement. The sudden activity beatific a ripple of shock through the flat audience, and several cameramen bound adapted their angles to abduction the abounding ambit of what was unfolding. Sit down, Michael, Kimmel said, his articulation demography on a condescending accent that fabricated the situation always worse. We're not done here. Actually, we are done. Jordan attacked back, his articulation now carrying the abounding weight of his anger. This is exactly what's amiss with this industry. You allure bodies on your appearance under false pretenses, ambuscade them with personal attacks, and again act like they're the botheration aback they don't play along with your ailing little games. The control allowance was in chaos. Producers were shouting instructions into their headsets, aggravating to amount out whether to cut to bartering or let the confrontation comedy out. The network executives watching from their offices were accompanying abashed and fascinated. This was either activity to be a career-ending affliction or the most talked-about television moment of the year. Kimmel, conceivably acumen he had pushed too far but clumsy to a back down without accident face, angled bottomward on his attack. Games, Michael, this is reality. This is what happens aback you body your entire career on actuality the absolute guy. Eventually, body's alpha asking questions about whether any of it is real. You appetite real? Jordan's articulation was now loud abundant to backpack throughout the entire flat after his microphone. Here's real. You're a bitter, done-up comedian who gets his bliss disturbing down people who are absolutely aggravating to make something of themselves. You adumbrate behind this affected nice guy persona, but underneath it all, you're aloof another Hollywood predator attractive for your next victim. The gasps from the admirers were audible. Now, amusing media was already exploding with clips and reactions, but the bodies in the flat were witnessing something unprecedented. A complete breakdown of the carefully orchestrated apple of backward night television. Kimmel's face ablaze red, his carefully maintained accord finally cracking. Predator? You're calling me a predator? That's affluent advancing from someone whose dating activity reads like a Hollywood casting call. There it is, Jordan said, pointing an accusatory finger at the host. There's the real Jimmy Kimmel. Not the adorable goofball your admirers thinks they know, but the nasty, avenging little man who can't stand seeing added bodies succeed. The tension in the allowance was suffocating. Security guards abreast the date were visibly tensing, borderline whether they needed to intervene. The bandage members sat frozen, their instruments bashful as they watched the exact warfare unfold before them. You apperceive what your problem is, Micheal? Kimmel was on his anxiety now, too, abandoning any pretense of professional decorum. You anticipate being pretty and acclaimed makes you untouchable? Well, assumption what? We all see through the act. The alone act actuality is yours, Jimmy, Jordan accursed back. 20 years of pretending to be America's sweetheart while you systematically abort anyone who won't comedy your games. How many other guests accept you ambushed like this? How abounding careers accept you approved to damage because it makes for good television? The catechism afraid in the air like an accusation, and for the first time aback the activity began, Kimmel seemed absolutely rattled. But instead of abetment down, he fabricated the decision that would ultimately allowance both their fates. What happened abutting would not alone end the interview, but atom an industry-wide chat about the dark ancillary of ball journalism. Kimmel's eyes narrowed as he processed Jordan's accusations. Instead of de-escalating, he fabricated the fatal accommodation to go nuclear. You want to allocution about careers and games, Micheal? Let's allocution about how you've built your absolute cast on actuality, the sensitive, socially acquainted heartthrob, while calmly blank some very interesting belief that haven't fabricated it to the tabloids yet. The blackmail was unmistakable. Jordan's face went baleful austere as he accomplished what Kimmel was implying. Are you aggressive me on live television? I'm not aggressive anyone, Kimmel replied, his articulation demography on a sinister affection that his admirers had never heard before. I'm aloof adage that maybe for you alpha throwing around words like predator, you should make sure your own abode is in adjustment because trust me, Micheal, there are belief out there that would accomplish your admirers see you in a actual altered light. The studio had gone absolutely bashful except for the hum of the cameras. Alike the crew members were staring in disbelief. This had beyond every bandage of professional conduct and entered area that could destroy both men's careers. Jordan's articulation alone to a buzz that somehow agitated added annoyance than any shout. Jimmy, I'm activity to accord you one chance to airing that aback because if you're suggesting what I anticipate you're suggesting, we're activity to accept a very different affectionate of conversation. Oh, I'm not suggesting anything, Kimmel said, his beam abiding with renewed viciousness. I'm aloof apprehensive if your fans apperceive about some of the interesting company you've been befitting lately. Some very adolescent company, if you apperceive what I mean. The allegation hit the allowance like a bomb. Jordan's face went from acrimony to something far added dangerous. The cold fury of a man whose appearance had been assassinated on civic television. The accusation was acutely baseless, a desperate attack by Kimmel to regain control of the narrative. But the damage was done the moment the words labored his mouth. You ailing allotment of garbage, Jordan said, his articulation about audible, but accustomed abundant acidity to make everyone in the flat recoil. You just accused me of article absurd on live television after an atom of evidence. Do you accept any abstraction what you've aloof done? The cameras captured every moment as Jordan's legendary composure assuredly burst completely. His easily were afraid with rage, his voice arise with the weight of what had aloof been adumbrated about his character. The admirers could see a man watching his acceptability actuality destroyed in absolute time by a host who had clearly lost all faculty of professional boundaries. Kimmel, conceivably finally realizing the consequence of what he had just done, approved to backtrack. Now, hold on. I never said annihilation specific. I was aloof authoritative or accepted observation about celebrity culture. And don't you dare try to airing this aback now, Jordan exploded, his articulation alveolate through the studio. You aloof adumbrated that I have inappropriate relationships with young women on civic television. You just destroyed my acceptability with a baseless insinuation because you couldn't handle actuality called out for your behavior. The ascendancy room was in complete panic. Producers were screaming into their headsets, aggravating to figure out how to handle a situation that had coiled absolutely out of control. The acknowledged administration was already actuality called, alive that this moment would acceptable after effect in lawsuits. That could broke the network. Micheal, calm down, Kimmel said, his voice now accustomed to a agenda of genuine panic as he seemed to apprehend the enormity of what he had aloof done. I think there's been a misunderstanding here. Misunderstanding? Jordan's beam was Absathian and harsh. You just committed appearance assassination on a live television and you appetite to call it a misunderstanding. You're done, Jimmy. You're absolutely done. The admirers was now murmuring nervously. Somebody's alpha to get up and leave, afflictive with witnessing what acquainted like a complete breakdown of affable discourse. Security guards were effective afterpiece to the stage, admitting they seemed borderline of what absolutely they were declared to do. Look, maybe we should booty a commercial break, Kimmel appropriate weekly. But Jordan was accepting none of it. No commercial break, Jordan said firmly. You capital to accept this chat on live television, so let's accept it. Let's talk about how you've been systematically antibacterial bodies for years, ambuscade abaft your affected smile and your anxiously crafted image. Let's talk about how you ambuscade guests who trust you abundant to appear on your show, then attack them aback they don't accord you what you want. The accusations were flying now with Jordan acutely deciding that if his acceptability was activity to be destroyed, he was activity to booty Kimmel down with him. The host, perhaps realizing that his career was now hanging in the balance, fabricated one final desperate attack to achieve control. You know what, Micheal? Maybe the absolute issue here is that you can't handle a little honest questioning. Maybe you're so used to accepting anybody kiss your ass, that you can't accord with addition who isn't impressed by your appealing face and your carefully apposite charm. It was the wrong affair to say at the affliction possible moment. Jordan's acknowledgement would be the final attach in the casket of what had once been an affable interview. Honest questioning. Jordan's articulation was now filled with angelic indignation. You call overextension lies and authoritative baseless accusations honest questioning. You're not a journalist, Jimmy. You're a tabloid basal agriculturalist who's been masquerading as an amateur for so long that you've abandoned the difference amid account and gossip. The confrontation had now accomplished a point where both men were absolutely committed to alternate destruction. The audience could faculty that they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years to come. But what happened next would ensure that this moment would be remembered as one of the best shocking in television history. Jordan took a step afterpiece to Kimmel's desk, his imposing anatomy casting an adumbration over the cowering host. You appetite to apperceive what honest looks like, Jimmy? Honest is me telling your admirers absolutely who you really are. You're a bootless amateur who found a way to break accordant by tearing down bodies who are absolutely authoritative a difference in the world. Security, Kimmel alleged out, his articulation cracking with desperation. But Jordan wasn't done. Don't call security on me, Jordan said, his voice carrying the ascendancy of addition who had allowable account his absolute career. I'm not aggressive you physically, though God knows you deserve it. I'm just giving you the aforementioned analysis you give your guests. Except I'm cogent the truth. The cameras were capturing everything as Jordan affronted to face the audience directly, bypassing Kimmel entirely. Ladies and gentlemen, you just witnessed article that happens behind the scenes in Hollywood every single day. Able bodies application their platforms to abort others for their own entertainment. This man arrived me actuality beneath false pretenses, ambushed me with personal attacks, and again aback I alleged him out on his behavior, he fabricated disgusting accusations about my appearance after a shred of evidence. The admirers was transfixed. They could see the raw pain and acrimony in Jordan's eyes, the genuine hurt of addition whose acceptability had been attacked in advance of millions of people. This wasn't acting. This was a man affronted for his candor in real time. You appetite to apperceive why I'm really angry? Jordan continued, his articulation now steady but abounding with controlled fury. "It's not because of what he said about me. I can handle lies and gossip. I've been ambidextrous with that my absolute career. I'm affronted because this is absolutely what drives accomplished bodies abroad from this industry. This is why acceptable bodies stop wanting to be in the accessible eye, because they apperceive that one day their ability end up sitting beyond from addition like Jimmy Kimmel, who will abort them for the sake of a viral moment." Kimmel approved to interrupt, but Jordan captivated upper hand that silenced him immediately. The gesture was so advantageous that alike the host seemed to compress back into his chair. "I came actuality tonight to allocution about a activity I'm amorous about. A film that tackles important amusing issues and could absolutely accomplish a aberration in people's lives. Instead, I got ambushed by a man who thinks antibacterial people's reputations his entertainment. Well, congratulations, Jimmy. You got your viral moment. I achievement it was accounted." Jordan began removing his microphone, his movements advised and final. "To everyone watching at home, this is what the absolute ball industry looks like aback the cameras are rolling, but the calligraphy goes off the rails. This is what happens aback edition with a platform decides to use it as a weapon instead of a apparatus for bringing people together." The blackout in the flat was deafening. Alike the bandage associates who had seen endless celebrity meltdowns over the years looked abashed by the raw emotion and address Jordan was displaying in what should accept been his moment of greatest vulnerability. "Jimmy," Jordan said, "axis aback to face the host one final time. You aloof destroyed your own career on a live television. Not because of annihilation," I said, "but because you showed millions of bodies who you really are beneath that affected smile. They saw you accomplish bottomless accusations against someone's appearance because you couldn't handle actuality alleged out for your behavior. That's not entertainment. That's appearance assassination. And everyone watching knows the difference." With that, Jordan tossed his microphone onto Kimmel's laugh with a loud bang that echoed through the studio's sound system. He straightened his jacket, looked anon into the Capitol camera one last time, and said, "Good night, America. You deserve bigger than this." The amateur absolved off the date with his head captivated high, abrogation abaft a stunned silence that continued for what felt like an eternity. Kimmel sat arctic in his chair, his face anemic and his usual smirk boilerplate to be found. The audience began to murmur, again applaud, then cheer as they accomplished they had just witnessed edition bootier angle against the baneful ability that had infected Hollywood for decades. As Jordan disappeared backstage, Kimmel finally found his voice. "We'll be appropriate back after these messages," he said weakly, but his words were drowned out by the continued acclaim from an admirers that clearly sided with the man who had just walked away. The cameras cut to commercial, but the accident was done. Within minutes, clips of the confrontation were trending beyond every social media platform. Team Michael B. Jordan began trending worldwide, while Jimmy Kimmel exposed followed abutting behind. The accord was overwhelming. Jordan had exposed something animal about the entertainment industry and audiences were disgusted by what they had seen. The fallout was immediate and adverse for Kimmel. Sponsors began affairs their support before the appearance alike ended. Network executives were fielding calls from outraged Laugh members. The man who had built his career on Actuality America's lovable backward night host had revealed himself to be article far more sinister. And the examination public's reaction was abrupt and unforgiving. Michael B. Jordan, meanwhile, had accomplished article remarkable. He had affronted what should accept been a career-ending ambuscade into a powerful statement about candor and address in the face of adversity. He had shown millions of bodies that sometimes the most able affair you can do is simply walk abroad with your attack intact. The activity that began as Jimmy Kimmel's attack to actualize viral content had instead become his professional downfall, while accompanying elevating Jordan to an alike college akin of respect and account from admirers who had witnessed his adroitness beneath the most unimaginable pressure.
Thank you for watching my video.